How's it hanging? Been a while, eh? Welcome in, Internet Randos, to something a little bit different. Yep, 2 or I guess 3 videos if you want to count padding for time, and I'm already switching up the format. Let's see if it sticks. I've designed a couple of Paradox Pokemon in my time. My very first ones were the past and future Torterras, Iron Terrarium, and Moving Mountain. Then there was the future Mimikyu Iron Mimic, the past Sliggoo Corrosive Goo, and for those of you who haven't seen the short, most recently I've made past and future Paradox forms of yours truly. Today though, I'll be undergoing a slightly more ambitious project. I'm gonna make Paradox forms for Eevee's Eeveelutions, taking their base concept and typing and seeing how far we can run with it before they're completely unrecognizable. Firstly though, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to hitting 50, which is coincidentally the caliber of bullet you'll find lodged in your hip if you don't subscribe. Thanks! And without further ado, let's begin. Jolteon was by far the easiest one to figure out the typing for. Electric Poison. I wanted to make a past form of it that referenced the bright vivid colorations and patterns on a lot of poisonous and venomous animals, like poison dart frogs or lionfish, and Jolteon already has spikes that fit the idea pretty well. I opted to seriously exaggerate Jolteon's mane on this one to try and convey that undomesticated feel that the Scarlet Paradoxes tend to have, which ended up having the effect of making their head look kinda like a weird flower, which I didn't really mind. I actually ran with that, making the tail look less animalistic and more like it belongs on some bizarre plant. At one point I considered putting markings on the side of the torso that looked like ribs, but the idea didn't really work as well as I had hoped, so I instead opted for these weird kaleidoscopic looking patterns on the back and chest, and some on the legs to look like it was coated in toxic ooze. And just to make the face a little bit more detached from regular Jolteon, I put a bit of purple on the fang there. And so here's Vibrant Hazard, Jolteon's electric poison ancestor. Vaporeon was also really easy to decide the typing for. Give him a steam engine, and there you go, water flying. I wanted to try and blend the high-tech futuristic aesthetic of the Violet Paradox forms with the steampunk aesthetic here. I put the focus on Vaporeon's fins for this design, having them expel steam like an exhaust system. The mouth tripped me out a bit, I'll admit. I didn't know whether to mimic the shape of regular Vaporeon's mouth or to remove it entirely, so I settled on this vent-looking thing to go with the steampunk idea. I also slapped some steam on the front legs to look like feathers or wings to further convey the flying type. I opted to replace the tail with a pair of wide wings on its hips to make it look like a plane or something, as I think it lent itself to the idea pretty well. And there you have it, Iron Steam, a water-flying Vaporeon from the distant future. You know what, why not get our next future form out of the way right off the bat? Flareon's iconic fluff gave me a great idea for this design, Steel Wool. It's the tasty-looking cotton candy stuff in your walls that insulates the house, keeping it warm. Combine that with Flareon and the fire-steel typing practically designs itself. Every image I could find of Steel Wool had it rolled up like toilet paper or that one brand of gum, so I tried to incorporate that spiral shape into the design, wrapped around its neck like a scarf, and replacing pretty much all of its fluff. I thought it'd be a neat idea to have the tail be a roll of steel wool, maybe capable of unfurling and extending to thwack stuff. I also made Flareon's paws wider to resemble leg warmers, which I thought would fit the insulation idea pretty well. And with that, here's Iron Insulation, a fluffy fire steel far future Flareon. Now moving on to our friends from Gen 2. I will admit, this one tripped me up a bit. As much as the idea of a dark ghost future Umbreon based on holograms sounded badass, I had already come up with a far cooler future VV that used the ghost type, and I didn't want to repeat these. But then a genius idea struck me. Umbreon's iconic ring-looking markings reminded me a little bit of geodes, and so Dark Rock it was. Replacing Umbreon's rings with actual geodes would require putting a big hole in their face, which I doubted would be very aesthetically pleasing or comfortable for the poor lad, so I instead opted to have the gems stick out as if they were embedded into it. I took that sort of seed-like shape that its ears and tail had, and turned them into carved jewels. I ended up picking a color for the rocks, kind of like amber, which works really well for an ancient Paradox form. And there you go, Eerie Jewel, a Stone Age Umbreon with a dark rock typing to match. Now then, wanna see who ended up getting that ghost typing instead? Now, how exactly does one go about designing a psychic ghost Espeon? Easy. Government propaganda. Imagine, if you will, a distant dystopian future in which the abilities of psychic-type Pokemon are used to control the populace, utilizing their powers of suggestion to quell rebellions and keep the people literally under control. It isn't done in broad daylight though, no, it's covert, subtle, nigh impossible to detect, hence the new ghost typing. I will admit I got a little bit lazy with the art for this one. I wanted this one to be less of a departure from Espeon's design than the others I've made so far, to play into that idea of hiding it in plain sight. I turned the upper half of the face into a screen and let the lower half look something like a ninja mask. I made the ears look wider to give them the shape of eyes to lean a bit to that Big Brother theme I'm going for in this design. And yeah, there you have it. Iron Brainwash, the dark future of Espeon, now Psychic Ghost. So, what do you think? Pretty cool, huh? I had a lot of fun conceptualizing and scribbling these little freaks. I'd really appreciate it if you'd tell me which one you liked best, any critiques, and if I should do something like this again in the future. Sorry about the delay on this one, it was a lot more ambitious than the last two videos, and also I was slacking off, but I hope you enjoyed this regardless. I'll see you next time, but till then, peace.